Welcome to the LAS4294 Contemporary Latin America and the Caribbean LibGuide. This LibGuide was created by Gail Williams. However, Gail Williams, who is our Latin American and Caribbean Information Services librarian, she is currently on sabbatical. So I am Christopher Jimenez. I am the Web Services Librarian and the History Liaison. I will be walking you through the use of this LibGuide, LAS 4294, for library research purposes. Now, I will be going through over two main websites. That's library.fiu.edu. This website, which is library.fiu.edu/LAS4294, as well as the main library homepage, library.fiu.edu. And we will be going over this guide and how to use it to expand and inform your library searches, okay? So the first page we're going to look at is for finding books. Now, finding books is fairly simple. You go to the library homepage, you switch to the catalog tab and run a search. Now, but there are some options that can help you to focus your searches a bit better, okay? So as I look here, you'll notice that the giant search tab, before I even get into searching, I should point out that we do have our Ask Us tab on both pages, on all of our library home pages here, where you can actually start a chat. Now this will say chat now when a librarian is currently online, a librarian like myself, like Gail when she comes back from sabbatical, to go ahead and talk to somebody in person to ask your research questions and have your research needs met. Now, when you come to the library homepage, you will see that the first tab that's highlighted is Discovery, and it says Search Anything. What that means is whatever you put in here is going to bounce off of everything that we have turned on from all sectors of information, right? So whether it's history information, Latin American information, religious information, business information, it's just all going to come back, which means it's going to be a flood of information. So if you don't have a very specific curated search, you may be overwhelmed by the information that comes back. So what we want to do is, if you're looking for a book in specific, you're going to switch this over from Discovery to Catalog and run your search for, let's say, your title. So I'm going to go ahead and run a search for the Mexican Revolution. So I'm going to pop that in here. And we're running our search right away. And of course, the Mexican Revolution, this is actually a video. We have got the audio, but we've got this book by Alan Knight on the Mexican Revolution. And we can go ahead and click here. We have some options. So we can send this to our email. We can copy the link so we can get back to it later. We can view the citation in any style here, or send it to RefWorks or EndNote. We can also check here to see where it is. So it is in the FIU Green Library. It's available. It's in general collections. So you can go ahead and go to that shelf, go to F123, interesting, 1234.K6586, go pull it off the shelf and walk out of the library with it. And that's great. If that's what you want to do, that's what you need to do, wonderful. However, we have some discovery options, right? So we're using this for research. We're using this to expand our knowledge, to know more, to get more information. And here are some ways to do that. Now note, that call number is not just, a specific location in the library, but it's also an information location, right? So that's where all the books on the Mexican Revolution are likely to be held. And you'll see here, using our virtual browse feature, that you have the Mexican Revolution here in the middle, but also to the left we've got Covering the Mexican Front, the Battle of Europe versus America, or to the right we have the Mexican Revolution, a very short introduction, and so on and so forth. Tempest over Mexico, Biografía del Poder. We can keep scrolling back and forth to see what else is informationally similar. So you may have come here wanting this book, but this might be the book you actually need. So keep that in mind as you're running your searches to be open to discovery, right? So you can do that using the virtual browse feature. You can also do that using this subject feature. So these subject headings are applied on the catalog level to group information that's kind of about this particular subject, right? So we have Mexico, history, revolution, 1910 to 1920. So that gives you a specific, history of Mexico, but it's about the revolution, and specifically it's about this revolution that occurred between 1910 and 1920. So if I click on this link, it's going to rerun my search, not for a specific book, but for this subject. And so you can see all the material that has been given this subject. And you see we have actually 5 pages of material that has been given this subject. Okay, now Gail has done a great job on this guide of giving you some sample subject headings for various topics. So if you're interested in history, you can look for Guatemala, Mexico, Venezuela, military government, right? You can keep going, looking for subject headings for culture, creative expression, right, and so on and so forth. You can scroll down and see more types of subject headings that you may encounter as you're running searches. So you may want to run a search for, let's say, keywords, and then look at those subject headings to see if there are subject headings that are maybe more specific for your search. Now, when I come back here to library homepage, library.fiu.edu, we can actually run this subject heading search from the get-go. We don't have to run a search, a keyword search to find our way over to a subject heading. We can do this by going to Find and clicking on Books, eBooks, Audio, and Video. When you do this, and that whole step-by-step process is laid out in your guide, you can run a search, let's say for... I think I have it copied here. No, I did not have it copied. Let me go ahead and grab that subject heading, Mexico, history, revolution, 1910 to 1920. And I can change this any field. This is your keyword search. You can change that to a subject search and then run your search, right? And this search is going to be the same as clicking on that link, but you're doing it right away from the get-go. So you can go ahead and grab one of these other subject headings that might be of interest to you and pop it into this advanced subject search to get that really specific, really relevant search for materials in the catalog, whether they be books or videos or audio or what have you. Now, in addition to books, you can go ahead and run searches for journal articles, okay? Now, if you wanted to run a search for, let's say, a journal, like the Journal of Caribbean History, you would switch this tab to eJournals and run that search for that title to see if we have an electronic copy, or you can run that same title search through the catalog to see if we have the physical run upstairs on the 3rd floor of the Green Library. Additionally, and this is all laid out here in your step-by-step, but you're going to go to Find and the A to Z list to look at our listing of databases for journal and other materials that might be digital. So again, you're going to go to Find and click on the A to Z list, and that's going to bring up this page right here, which shows you all of our databases for all topics, all subjects, right? So you can browse through and click on each of these letters to see what lies under that alphabetical listing. Or if you know the database you want to go to, you can go to this search box right over here on the right-hand side and run a search for Hoppy Online or the Alnet or what have you. Additionally, right, we can browse, right, and filter. We can actually filter our search here by clicking on the subject dropdown and going all the way down to Latin American and Caribbean Studies. And you see here that these are actually curated for Latin American and Caribbean studies. So these are databases that are specifically used within this subject area. Your best bets are called out. These are your first go-tos to go ahead and run your searches through. You can run a search for keywords. You can run a search for subject headings in these. And if once you exhaust these best bets, then you can take a look at some of these other databases that may be more niche, but they actually might be niche, in a subject area that would be important for you. So go ahead and scroll through, double check to see if there are any of these databases that might be relevant, might be helpful for your particular research problem or question. Now, in addition to Latin America, Gail has already called out some of these very important, very good databases on this page here. On the A to Z list, you're going to see an expanded list of databases. So I would start here on the guide page and then move over to the A to Z list as your research expands. Note that while that listing, right, it limits you to Latin American and Caribbean studies specifically, you may not want to limit yourself that way. You may want to go in and say, you know what, I want to see a history database, right? That might be useful. So you go ahead and scroll down to H and go to history and look at the history databases, or maybe labor studies, or maybe you want to look at it from a public health perspective. So you can look at some of these other or television and film. You might want to look at some of these other subjects that might shed light on the issues, right? The next page over that we're going to look at are primary sources. So again, Gail has laid out here some really good primary source materials for this particular class. Some of these, databases, are phenomenal for, finding those primary materials here. But you can also browse to those through the A to Z list. Again, when you're at the library homepage, you're going to drop down under Find and then click on the A to Z list. And we can go ahead and use that filter option to go ahead and change this from this middle one that says all database types to archives and primary sources. Note that you can also scroll down to newspapers as well to specifically receive newspapers. So when you click on archives and primary sources, again, you're going to see an expanded list. So this list here is just curated for this particular class, but here it's an expanded list. You can actually use both of these drop downs to narrow this search down to the intersection of Latin American and Caribbean studies and archives and primary source materials. Note that you can also switch this right to newspapers, and we have 12 newspapers that are now not only newspapers, but also newspapers that we can know are published in Latin America or the Caribbean, okay? And these would all count as primary source materials. Gail has also given you a list here of vetted internet resources. These are resources that are either from some organization or have been compiled by scholars, and we know that they are reliable, and you can use them to go ahead and expand your research. So look these through. Let's see it. Say if there's a collection here that is specific and catches your eye for your particular research needs. Let's say posters. You can go ahead and check out Princeton University's digital collection of posters, right? Finally, I want to call your attention, I have two things I want to call your attention to. First of all is to discover materials at other libraries, right? We do have quite a nice collection of digital materials, our catalog is decent, as well as our database list. But you may find that as you run your searches, either through the databases or through the catalog or through expanded catalogs, that we might not necessarily have access to everything. But we can go ahead and get that material for you. And we do that through interlibrary loan. So that's here under popular services, this second row here. Under interlibrary loan, you can go ahead and click there and put in your request. And what this does is it does submit a request to us to go ahead and reach out to our partners, whether they be in the state, across the country, or around the globe, to get materials for you. If it is your first time using the service, you may need to fill out this form here to get started, or just log in. It will ask you for the bibliographic information. So you're going to enter the title, you're going to enter the author, you're going to stay specifically what you want, and then we will go out and try to get it for you. Note that it does take some time to fulfill the request, right? So articles, usually we can get a digital copy to you within a day or two. But if you're asking for a full book, that can be that can take some time because it depends on the mail system. So they'll pull the book, they'll package it, and then ship it off to us. We need to receive it, process it, and let you know that it has come in. Note that if you're using something like WorldCat, right, and you can take a look at the contents of a book and identify whether you need, chapter 3 or chapter 5. And if that's the case and you only need maybe 1 or 2 chapters from a book, you can request just the book chapter from Iliad. And then we can maybe negotiate with the library to scan it and send it to you digitally so it comes in faster, okay? So keep that in mind as you're using interlibrary loan to request materials that we don't have physically here. And then finally, we have citation assistance. So I'm going to call your attention to this other LibGuide here that does walk you through some formatting styles, gives you some tips on other styles, as well as how to organize your research using RefWorks or other citation managers like EndNote or Zotero. So we do have overviews on those services as well. So again, here is your LibGuide for the class. That is library.fiu.edu/LAS4294. Hopefully you find this workshop helpful and this walkthrough useful for your research purposes for this class. And I hope you have a great time researching.